committee members here are Mr. Knight, me, and Ms. Conway. No, Gary. Gary's not on electronically, right? And we can't approve the minutes either because we don't have people who were here at that meeting. So Kristen, I think I'm just going to have to ask if you agree that what's presented in writing is an accurate depiction of what we did.
Yes.
Yeah, and I agree. So that's the best we can do on the public participation. Is there anyone here who would like to participate and speak? Okay, so I don't have to read that. And we can move right on to discussion and next steps. We have some new course proposals. I think I'm going to turn it over to you, please, Mrs. Fritz.
Sure, thank you very much, and I'd like to thank Erin Sullivan, Ashley Santapietro, and Caitlin Reese for bringing these new course proposals forward. I believe that Caitlin, you are on a tight schedule tonight, correct?
Yeah.
Would you like to speak first about
Sure.
interior design?
Yes.
Come up to the table and join us so that we can use.
So currently I teach child development 1, 2, and UConn individual family development. And part of the child development 1 and child development 2 classes, they each had an assignment where they were working on a little bit of the color wheel, like why our classrooms are certain colors they are, why our nurseries, this type of thing. And then learning about why spaces are designed the way they are, what's appropriate. And I kind of use that as a gauge to see if the kids were interested in it or if they're just one of those, you know, I'm all interested in. Excuse me, they ran with it and loved it and wanted more of it, but with child development, I was really limited as to what, you know, else we could kind of design. So I spoke to a couple of them about the possibility of interior design as it is in my umbrella for family consumer science, and they were super excited. They like that it's very hands-on, which a lot of the CTE courses, you know, that's what we are, and I just thought it was great to introduce a new subject that also could in the future hopefully be collaborative with other parts of CTE, whether it was like woodshop and stuff going on, digital art and that type of thing. So I could see a lot of growth for it in the future if the kids really are interested in it, and I thought would be a great offering.
Questions?
I don't have anything, sounds great. I did actually hear about the color stuff at home. So I'm on board.
Do you anticipate that this will be a popular course?
I do.
Boys and girls?
Yep.
Okay. Certainly something necessary. Good.
And if kids are interested in it, I say, you know, go for it. Give them more stuff that they're interested in.
I think it sounds wonderful. Would it be really focused on a large part of it about the design of classroom setups? Is that?
We did the classroom design for child development too, because they're learning about, more or less like they learn about lesson plans and how exactly, you know, working on becoming an educator, and working with the pre-K next door and stuff like that. So that was just a gauge for them. They would start with basics like learning about the color wheel a little bit more for those that didn't have, you know, obviously child development. And then they learn about different styling techniques like feng shui and why certain cultures use the type of stylings that they do. So we have that multicultural component. And then also they would get into, you know, different modern styles, traditional, learning about that. And then we would work on like an individual day. Okay, we're gonna work on a living room, design this type of thing in the bedroom. We could definitely touch on a classroom again, but it wouldn't be focused on the school.
Gotcha.
So I feel like if we
Caitlin's fortunate that she has the home economics certificate,
Yes.
so that, you know, that has the umbrella of a whole bunch of different areas that she's certified and qualified to teach.
I love them all together.
Okay.
Is associated with this at all or no?
No, I requested a sample textbook to see what was out there, and there was one that was just published last year, and it's very dry. A lot of the material I found through other states, they put it out there publicly. But a lot of the programs, what we would be using is free online, which is great. We don't need to use it as in-depth that you would pay for the subscription piece, because the kids aren't going to be going that far into it. So we would use the free portion of that program, and then everything else is hands-on in their building, so.
Love it.
Yeah, no
Even
cost. Other than basic classroom supplies we already have.
And do you anticipate professionals in this area being a part of your program?
Yes, actually, so one of the para-educators in the pre-K classroom next door, her daughter is an interior designer. So I was talking to her that if this would come to light, as another Torrington local, if she would be willing to come in, and she was all for it and was very excited. Because she feels it's something that a lot of people aren't aware about and are unsure about education-wise, what it requires and that type of thing, so. Yeah, I'm already kind of put feelers out there for that, and I definitely see connections being made.
We do have a connection to another interior designer that we may be able to tap.
Anything else? And if someone will make a motion to move this on with our approval to the full board, I will entertain that motion.
So moved.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you for that.
So sorry.
No?
Thank you for coming. Erin, I know you're up next with the AP seminar.
So AP Seminar is an opportunity for us to introduce another AP class to the high school. It aligns very well with our English 10 curriculum as it stands now, so it would fit nicely into English 10 as an option for students. One of the benefits to this particular course for students is that it is I'll call it an entry-level AP course, that for the English AP classes, a high level of critical reading and writing is required in order to succeed on the AP test. With AP Seminar, students who may not be as skilled in those areas have a way to get into an AP class because it is based more in verbal communication than written communication. And so it provides them a nice option. It's also an opportunity at our 10th grade level for our students to pursue either an honors course that's heavier in the reading and writing and a seminar course that's heavier in presentation and verbal communication. Which aligns with our high quality instruction work that we've been doing this year, as well as our Portrait of the Graduate and effective collaborator, effective communicator elements of the Portrait of the Graduate. So it is budget neutral. We can use what we've been using for AP, or for English 10 already. And we think it'll be a nice opportunity for our students to get another AP credit under their belt.
Seminar implies small group. Are you going to cap the class size on this?
So there's no intention right now that I am aware of to cap the class size. I think that might be more difficult for scheduling.
Yeah, the AP seminar comes from College Board, that's how they word it. A lot of the portfolio work that students will need to produce and send to College Board for their AP grade is done in small group, hence the AP seminar. But in terms of the overall class, no, not necessarily.
Okay. Jeff?
Yeah, if it's budget neutral, which is awesome, are we not offering a section of something else to make room for this, or how are we?
The students would have an opportunity to identify, as they do now, which of the English 10 curriculums best align with their choices, and then scheduling of those would depend upon the interest.
So you think it'll just pull away from other offerings, because which is good, it's
Yeah,
another new
yeah.
opportunity, so you're just spreading out where everybody's going.
Yeah, we anticipate perhaps having some students from English that would have gone into English to honors, as well as students who would go into English to college prep, sort of going this way, which would mean perhaps eliminating a section of that anyway, so it would balance out.
Got it, thank you.
So,
Bill, go ahead.
so if with the inclusion of this class, it will the opportunity to figure out and decide whether they wanted something that was heavier in reading and writing or heavier in presentation.
Correct.
Okay, thanks.
Kristen, go ahead.
I did not have a question, it sounds great though, thank you.
Sorry, did I step on you?
No, not at all.
Anyone know? Thank you. I'm looking for the same motion for this as I did for the last course.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Last up is, but not least, digital drawing. Ashley, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
To give some background on this, currently I do teach a bunch of different like art and technology courses that kind of go hand in hand sometimes. I do have an art technology course, but I would like to present a niche of kind of that section with a digital drawing course. I don't know if we want to consider it a humanities and art or if you want to consider a CTE because of my double certification. But in terms of budget, I don't really need anything for it. I have all the technology we have. It's really just giving the students like an opportunity to go down this pathway. I have taught drawing before and my digital art club is maxed out. They all have an interest in it, so I think it would be really great to have for the school.
Questions, comments? Jeff?
This is great. I think, do we have a class like this at the middle school though?
I know that there was previously.
Maybe previously was in years past. I recognize the course name. That's why I said this is you have a captive audience of kids who wanna do it. That's great.
I think that middle school course was digital production, video production.
It was an art class.
Yeah, you might be right.
It was an art class.
Yeah, there was a digital video production, there was also an art technology class that had digital drawing.
Maybe that was the
class, yeah.
that they were all rotating through, I think as a part of like the robotics and this and that.
Other questions? And scheduling this should be no problem. I suppose I'm looking at you, Mr. Scott.
Nope, again, just like with all courses, we put out our course requests for the students select what courses they're most interested in, that determines which courses get run.
Guidance sorts it all out and
Yep.
tells you what's happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Same motion,
So moved.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, we have our
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you so much.
I do just wanna say, I love that, we're offering so many different types of courses for different students and really having an all-around, curriculum. I think it's great. Thank you. So there's kids with different interests, and we really need to make sure that we're taking care of everyone. So thank you.
next on the agenda. We have board goals, discussion, and recommendation to full board. We've had the offer out there for a while and still only 2. So I think we pass it on to the full board and see what happens at the full board level, all right? Yes, no?
Yes.
Yes.
Any reason not to do that?
No.
I'm not even looking for I think I will look for a motion to do that.
So moved.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
We have moved on the 2, count them, 2 board goals. And the second sheet in your packet relates to that, just comparison to other goals that we've had. So now, discussion, elementary and intermediate grade history instruction. This is based on a student request for more history instruction.
Yes, sure, so I'll just give you a little bit of background and then Mary Gad can take it from there and provide some context and some detail. So during the summer of 2025, this past summer, and also throughout this current school year, the district has undertook and is undertaking, continues to undertake a systemic review of our K-6 social studies curriculum to align our instruction with the newly adopted Connecticut elementary and secondary social studies standards. So this work ensures a vertically aligned, standards-based social studies program grounded in the 4 inquiry strands, which are history, geography, civics, and economics. In grades K to 3, our instructional coaches have identified opportunities to expand existing units and pilot developmentally appropriate hands-on inquiry-based instruction aligned to those state topics with an intentional spiral from local communities to Connecticut history. Teachers in grades 4 through 6 expanded and revised the benchmark units, and Mary will go into more detail with this. But our literacy program has embedded science and social studies topics within it, and she'll talk more about that. So develop new units to ensure full standards alignment while strengthening students' critical thinking, inquiry, literacy, and civic reasoning skills. So this is really the district's ongoing commitment to high-quality instruction, which you've heard us talk about, constantly, and continuous curriculum improvement, which we're doing also, mostly throughout the summer months, but when we have the time. And Mary's gonna take over, and what you see up here on the screen, thank you, Josh, I know it's very far away, is a snapshot of something that we work from in our online curriculum planning platform.
Thank you. Thank you. So we've done quite a bit of work since the summer, and during the school year work, the K-3 coaches have been looking at one unit in particular, which is really contributing to society. And they're looking at how within an existing unit that is really around how are rules made, how do we look at where we are now, considering past and present, kind of grounding us where we are in our current society. How do we respond to our environment? How do we understand the progression of our town and our larger history over time? So we're grounding in that particular unit some activities for our K through 3 students, focusing K1 through the lens of purposeful play. So for example, for our K1 students, if they are looking at Torrington, the town of Torrington, what it looked like in the past, what it looks like now, they could look at images, and then our goal is to design lessons around material culture. So if there's a depiction, for example, of a phone, an old-fashioned phone, how would little ones understand the difference between what it was like to communicate then and what is it like to communicate now? Continuing that concept of past and present, our grade 1 students really focused more around geography, looking at maps of Torrington then and now, and think through how could I get from where I am now to a different location, imagining what the sites would be, what it might have looked like then, what would I see now. So again, through that kind of purposeful play, but also discovering some really unique ideas about our town. Grade 2 would be looking, where our goal is to look at leadership past and present, and to see what those roles were like in a particular period, and what are they like now, what were the contributions that were made, and how is that sort of formulated where we are as a town. And then our grade 3 kids would look more broadly at kind of picking up that geographical idea of what are the regions in Connecticut, where is Torrington in relation to the rest of the state. So the second and third units would be more around some research skills, how students think about past and present and time, and the significant historical past of our town and our region. So that's what we've been working on expanding based on the current benchmark units. In grades 4 through 6, there are again additional benchmark units that are already in play. Those are understanding government in action and the Transcontinental Railroad, to name a couple. And we actually are working on expanding those units, but have added 2 new ones. And the 2 new ones are understanding U.S. land regions and location and place, and movement and regional interdependence. So within those units, students are doing will be doing, and it's going to be piloted in 2 through June. This will encapsulate the end of the year. The kids will be doing some additional work on research, discussion, probing questions, really like what makes a particular area unique in a region. What does it contribute to the country? What does it contribute to the country? Why would you want to live there? So they'll be probing some richer and deeper questions to broaden how they think about history, but also tease out some of those consistent literacy skills that we know we want all of our students to have. Being able to read analytically, being able to speak about an idea, and being able to write effectively and then present those ideas. In grade 5, those teachers already did their expanded unit that they developed over the summer, and that was US Constitution Then and Now. And they engaged in debate, they had specific junctures for the amendments to the Constitution, they read the preamble, and again, did a really, all of these units are taking a deeper dive into some materials that are already present in some of the literacy work that they do. And they're working on developing migration and settlement in the colonial era, and they'll be reading a text this year that is an account of the Jamestown settlement. In grade 6, which has its own standalone social studies courses, right? So they have ELA and social studies separated, 4 and 5, they're humanities blocks. They had an existing curriculum, but over the summer, they aligned what they had more with the standards and the themes that we want to be sure are spiraling through every level so that we get that clear focus K through 12, but this is just the first piece, K through 6. They developed some additional units, and they also pulled in some units from Benchmark that are very specifically historical units and expanded those to align with what they're doing in their specific history classes. So it's been some great fun actually digging into this work and seeing this. Everything has shifted to much more hands-on, richer student-to-student discourse, and really deepening their understanding of history and how it impacts where we are today. So that's the work that we've begun, the beginning. We have more to do, which we'll be tackling, as Mrs. Ferguson said, over the summer and during as much as we can during the school year.
Does the state suggest any amount of time that should be spent in a particular day or in a particular period of time?
No, they leave that open, and they're very precise in the new standards to say, we leave this open to districts, but these are the themes that we need to ensure that students are getting, and also the skills and competencies. They call them inquiry sets, where students are really learning to think like an historian, an economist, a geographer.
So how do we monitor what happens in the classroom to make sure that these topics are hit?
Through this kind of curriculum work, our coaches, in fact, Dawn Palutro is here with us tonight. She's been completely instrumental in the 4, 5, 6 work. It's amazing. So we collaborate with teachers at grade level meetings. We talk about the progress that they're making and how the lessons are unfolding, what they might need support to do, where they're seeing areas of growth, where they're seeing need, and so we visit.
John, if I may, what the state does recommend is how many minutes are given to literacy and mathematics. So what ends up happening is they want to see 120 minutes, or 2 hours of literacy, 2 hours of math. That's 4 hours in the course of a school day. Doesn't leave much. So what has happened over the past decades during the whole language movement is, as children lost ground in literacy and math, social studies and science instruction, quite frankly, full disclosure, have kind of been pushed to the wayside. And, you know, here in Torrington, now that we are starting to see more growth in reading, writing, and math, what's happened is the content areas, social studies and science, have been quote unquote embedded throughout literacy instruction. But now what we're attempting to do is shift that, and now that we can give more time to social studies and science and infuse the literacy and math skills into the content instead of the opposite, if that makes sense.
If it happens, it makes a lot of sense, you know. But the reason we're here is because the students say we're not getting enough history instruction. It doesn't happen very much, so I think we need to honor that perception on the part of that student.
Well, she's right. She's right, I mean, the focus has largely been on reading, writing, math. Let's think about that, those are the tested grades,
Yeah, and
tested
the question
subjects.
is what you read and what you write in the process of conveying that instruction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway.
So, we're working on it.
So more to come, yeah, but we've been working in earnest.
Yeah. You don't remember history, you're doomed to repeat it. That is so true.
Yeah, it
That
is.
so true. I see that all the time. Anyone else? Kristen, Jeff, Bill, Gary?
I missed most of it, unfortunately. I do have, I guess, one question for everybody. Only because I had a lot of kids go through the school system. John's, I've had more than one or two kids. I've had kids that worked for me, went on his programs, college, and said they never got enough history and geography and those things, and were embarrassed. But are the teachers being given the free time now to be, just let them go, let them do their job, and let them teach, and not be encumbered by any, anything that we as the Board of Ed think they should be doing, or the administration? I mean, can teachers just teach these days? Or no?
No.
So,
So,
standards with teachers as well. And so when we create curriculum, it's not something that is foisted on teachers. Erin was there this summer when we had the, teachers 4 through 12, social studies, science, math, and English, working on curriculum development. And it's an absolute, it's a really collaborative process, but it's also a really complex process, because you're looking at standards that articulate where we really want our students to be, what we want them to know and be able to do, but it's up to the teachers to figure out how you best get our kids there.
That's what I was asking.
Yeah, and so that's
It's
how
not being
we
shoved down
do
their
it.
throat the way they have to teach, as long as
As long as we're
they meet their levels of achievement.
right, and but more importantly, the kids are gaining depth, right, and facility. Can they speak about what they understand? Can they write about what they understand fluently? Are they articulate? Express their understanding, not in a simplistic level, but in a more complex way. Otherwise, you're right, you are doomed to repeat history if you can't make connections from then to now and understand the themes and the repetitions and how we break that.
So teacher instruction in college, you have to have a year of US history to get certified to teach, or is that not even true anymore?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Because
what the
elementary
certifications
instruction
are, but I don't
requires
think so.
absolutely no preparation in social studies, right?
Certainly not at the upper levels, that you need to have preparation to get certified in social studies. You have to have, I forget the number of hours, but a significant number of hours.
I'm talking elementary age.
Elementary, I'm not sure of the specific requirements.
No, there's not, it's,
No, because we're
it's
talking
math and
elementary,
reading.
that's why I'm asking it.
It's math and reading, which is, and even
Right.
that, it's not a whole lot.
And so the curriculum is a little more supportive and supported and supportive than it is at the levels where you have more expertise. And that's why we love the vertical alignment, because teachers who have more expertise in the content can work with the elementary teachers who have extraordinary expertise in the instructional practices too.
Just a quick question. So it sounds like what we're doing is recentering the curriculum. So the goals move and the requirements move, and we're kind of reevaluating and recentering how we get that content to the kids. My question is almost history. How often do we do that? Or how often have we been doing that? And how often do we plan to do it to kind of support this moving forward, right? So if we've gotten way askew and a student recognized it, or not that we're askew in a bad way, but we're off the content, benchmark has come along, a lot of the integrations occurring. How are we looking ahead to solve that problem on an ongoing basis? Once every 5 years, 3 years, like what's the plan?
So we actually do have a plan to develop a pretty explicit curriculum review process so that we do know where we are and then what we need to tweak and what we need to prioritize to ensure we're doing what we're talking about. And right now we are at the development process for this, so then we can figure out after we've completed this phase, how could it move forward and have that kind of a regular, those have regular steps annually.
Small tweaks instead of big jumps.
Right, but right now we're in a,
For the big jump.
we're in a big jump.
For the big jump, but small tweaks to come. Thank
We
you.
look forward to small.
And as Sue implied, there is just not enough time in the school day to do the things you want to do or should do or have to do even, so
Yeah.
you understand that, Anyone else? Bill?
No, I'm also,
So we're moving along and making things a little bit clearer. Are we defining things a little better? Is that a way to encapsulate what
Yeah.
you've said?
And I think making the study of history a little bit more explicit.
Explicit. That's, I think, what this student wanted, because if you don't see it, if you don't understand something as a history lesson, I think it'd be easy to think that it isn't a history lesson. So if we can get HR, when we interview prospective elementary teachers, to make sure they have some interest, because it is a matter of interest, isn't it? Because teachers will teach what they're knowledgeable and comfortable with.
They're really excited about it.
And that's not exactly true, but they will also teach what they're supposed to according to the curriculum, but anyway. Anyone else? I'll stop talking. Thank you very much. We appreciate the information. Thank you for your work.
Thanks.
Okay. Preliminary discussion. Distinguished alumnus. It starts again.
Here we
It's like
go.
budget, it never doesn't go away for very long.
So did you want to give a little overview for anybody who might not know, or?
Well, yeah, why don't you do that? Because there might be people who haven't been through the process.
So why don't we do this together, because I don't think I have quite the history you do. How many years have we been doing this?
Oh, forever. We lapsed for a while, but then maybe 15 years ago, we started doing it again, and it's been pretty consistent
Okay,
since
so
then.
for a very long time, for decades, the district has acknowledged, recognized, one very distinguished alumnus from Torrington High School, who has demonstrated, moving on in life after leaving Torrington and doing great things. We've had some pretty wonderful recipients of this award. So every year at this time, we start a conversation about pretty much the timeline of what it's gonna look like. There's a process, we put it out to the district as a whole, all of TPS. Nominations are encouraged to come from staff, from families, from students, from community. We put it out to our media listserv. There's 2 or 3 times that we send it out, encourage nominations. Mr. Kisco holds a small meeting, a brief meeting after, and school improvement members actually go through the nominations and select the candidate. And the candidate who is chosen, I usually have the honor of contacting that person. I don't think I've ever had somebody decline, well, actually, yes, but based on medical health, records had to decline. But other than that, they're usually very honored. Travel from far and wide sometimes to come back, and the caveat is they have to be available to appear in person to receive their award. Last year we did it at the academic awards night celebration at the high school, but in most of the years I've been involved, it's been at scholarship night, so late May or June, and they speak to the students, the graduates, they give a little 5-minute speech about their life and what Torrington has meant to them and what their formative years growing up here and coming through the Torrington Public Schools has done for them professionally and personally. So it's that time, we usually send out the first media sort of blitz around this at the beginning of February, and then nominations are typically due to the superintendent's office by mid-March. And then in April at the school improvement meeting is when we kind of dig in and say, here's our top 3 and kind of narrow it down. So it's that time to start thinking.
And it's required by the bylaws that this committee do that. It's actually one of our written duties. So and it's one of our happier students.
I know, it's a
too.
pleasure, really, it's a pleasure.
So then, if we ask you to go through the dates from last year and just adjust to this year and.
So I've already done that, when I saw what you sent me, I thought, okay, let me be proactive, so if I sent it out at the beginning of February, like let's say the day after our sixth meeting in February, which is typically what we do, and we had them do the nominations submitted to the superintendent's office by Friday, March 13th, unless anyone's superstitious. Scholarship night this year is slated for June 4th. I don't believe awards night has been put on the calendar yet. I called and spoke to Tara, it's not there yet, right? But isn't it typically the Thursday before? It's usually that last a week before in May, so I don't know what you think, John, about last year having it at awards night, kind of, because it's an award. I don't know what you think about that.
I wasn't able to be at that last year, I understand it went last year.
I mean,
It is an award,
you
you're
know,
right, it's an award.
Right, it's not a scholarship, it's an award, it kind of fits, I think, a little neater, but
We can decide that later, but it's certainly something to consider.
yeah.
We'll do it the same way this year as we did last year.
So then would you like me for the February school improvement meeting to have all the paperwork?
Just a timeline and the
Yep.
other things we're gonna need to get running.
Okay, perfect.
As always, you do all the work, we get a tiny bit of the credit. You do all the work.
No, it's a pleasure, if I may, just not to really call it, they're all very deserving, wonderful people, very accomplished, very humble. But it just, the whole COVID experience was so cool because the distinguished alum recipient that year was is he the CEO or the executive director
See you.
of Quest, right, of Quest Labs, Steve Ronkowski?
Wiskowski.
Wiskowski, who had, under his leadership, the COVID vaccine was developed, and so that was a very cool experience. It was, timed right around the pandemic and everything, and it was just, wow. Little old Torrington,
We get a varied group of nominees, and it's always very difficult to choose one of them.
Well, it doesn't need to be someone who's made millions or somebody who's runs a university system. It can be somebody who's just done anything with their lives that distinguished them from within their peers and just represented Torrington.
It can be anybody. It can be anybody who has, as you say, distinguished themselves by the way they've dealt with their life after. Yeah. Okay, unless there's anything else?
No.
Anything else? Questions? Then our last real item on the agenda, AI, past, present, future in TPS. Who's doing that?
Well, I thought you were going to do that one. But Erin is here to help.
Right, that's what I wanted to know, is
Yeah.
just a status report, what's going on now?
So
And it doesn't have to be formal at all, no, I wasn't expecting anything.
Right, so I guess the question is, how is it being used by teachers? How is it being used by students in both, and by students for positive, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then also, what are you as a teacher, or Ashley, you're here too, like what, anybody is willing, invited to jump in. How do teachers see AI in the classroom today? I mean, I think the board is looking at whether or not we need a policy around this eventually, and do we need a committee to look into how and putting some parameters around it, and
I think that there's a lot of questions there, so I'll start with the policy. The English department at the high school actually incorporated into our academic integrity policy that we put on our syllabi this year, some language around AI. And it's language that I adapted from UConn's language that they have in their academic integrity policy to identify what would be considered accepted and appropriate use, and under which parameters that would be allowed, and what is obviously considered to be along the lines of plagiarism or cheating, and how that gets distinguished. So that's been a positive way for us to articulate it to our students. And when AI first sort of hit the waves, if you will, and students were using it, there was not a lot of knowledge around it amongst the teaching profession, so it was difficult to catch and address the students using it. This has developed very, very quickly. And with that development, we have learned already and are learning every day how to monitor, use as teachers, and help students learn how to use the programming available to them for their benefit. We're hearing that many businesses now are looking for candidates to be AI proficient. And so we're looking at ways to teach the students, kind of like when Google came out and you had to teach the students how to do searching and search engines. It's a very similar process that's now happening with the AI that's available to them. In English class, for example, how do you have a conversation, that in quotation marks, with an AI resource such as ChatGPT to take ideas that you have, take inquiries that you have, develop those lines of inquiry, and then use them to do appropriate research and to develop your own product. And we are designing ways in our classrooms and in the English classrooms and many of the science classrooms to provide students with instruction on how to do that and use it ethically and efficiently to make them better students, but also responsible and academically, adherence to academic integrity.
Yeah, there's just so many angles to this. There's the technological angle, there's the student use angle, and then, okay, so you produce something. Then the teacher can use this to analyze what the student has written and possibly even grade it.
Yeah, I'm not hearing a lot of that at the high school. I mean, I think there is some, I know some people are having students use it to analyze their own work that they've done, to help them revise their work in that writing process of revision and polishing. Teachers are definitely using it to their best advantage in order to create assignments that are AI durable, so that they can have an assignment that is going to challenge the students in the content they need to be challenged in, while at the same time designed in a way so that they can't just cheat and copy. So it's been, actually, now that teachers are starting to learn how to use it, it's actually becoming a very useful tool.
And students can feed their own work in, various samples of their own work, and say, write this in my voice, right?
They can, and we have safeguards and parameters in place in the classroom to prevent them from doing that, so that they're developing their own voice.
Yeah. We're back to using yellow pads and pencils.
We don't even, I mean.
For testing, that's one
Yeah.
of the things that we're doing.
Yeah, for testing that definitely is, but we're also using, again, I'll use English class because that's what I'm doing, the tabs in Google Documents to help track how they are developing those ideas and how they're developing their revisions so that we can keep them honest in that process.
Like the old way you had to write term papers, you turn in your research, you turn in your notes, you turn in your, so if you do that with this will
Yeah.
make sure AI doesn't take over.
Yeah.
Mr. Scott, you sat down at the table when Aaron started to talk, what do you have to add on this?
Well, as you and I spoke about the other day, I was interviewed about the use of AI in classrooms by the Republican American, and it was a very nice article released. And I think one of the things that as we navigate this, that we have to be very mindful of, is working directly with our teachers on this, because the use of AI is obviously vastly different when we see it used by a student in, say, a math class than when we see it used in a English or humanities class.
Mhm.
There's really not a whole lot of revision of your math work. Your math work is your math work. So in those courses, obviously, we put up a greater barrier to the use of things like ChatGPT in a calculus class or a statistics class than we would in a class that is a lot about writing and research. So it really does vary depending on which academic discipline we're looking at. And then as we get into a lot of our CTE courses, AI plays a huge role in being able to move forward into those careers, things like manufacturing, CAD, engineering, because it's such a prevalent tool used in those professions now. So we do need to make sure that the students at least understand what it is that those tools can do and what they can't do. I was in a engineering class today, and watched some students using the CAD programming to try to design houses. And it became very obvious very quickly which students understood the geometry of what they were doing and which students did not. So those are places where we need to make sure that we're keeping that barrier a little bit firmer.
AI is my jam. I know a lot about AI, and I do teach a unit to my class, my art tech class about AI. We go over like the ethical implications, pros, cons, how it adds to human value or how it can take away from human value. But I really like what you guys both said. It is used as a tool. Just like the internet, you can overuse, you can oversearch, and it can take away your critical thinking skills. So yes, you want to design lessons that kind of are more personal questions or things you know only they could answer if they were in class yesterday or things like that. But it also is important for us as teachers to understand how to identify what is AI, and I do have tips and tricks of my own. There's engines, there's reverse engines.
Yeah.
In college, it's similar to what, because I'm in my master's degree right now, what Erin was saying is that there are like syllabuses that you have to sign that say like, my integrity, I'm not gonna steal or copy or use AI for all of my work. But I also want to add, my courses are drafted by AI as well, so they are using it too. But I just wanted to ask you guys.
You have a question?
Yeah, I don't wanna throw water on that. And I understand AI, but I've not studied it. I do have friends who teach in other parts, in other schools, in Boston mostly. And they're trying to stop using it because of the conflict they have with teachers who are not afraid. They're having a lot of problems with cheating. Students, especially in English. Students that really don't write well, who submit papers that they know are not written by them. And then when they call them out, the mom calls, or the dad calls, and said, prove it. Happens over and over again now. Prove that they didn't write it. And you have to have teachers who, and administrators who are willing, and I don't know how you do that. And one of the teachers just left the school system to go to another one because of it. But it's taking away their ability to defend their teaching expertise, which is a real problem for a couple of these teachers, females who have been there for a long time. Honors English is one of them. And there's no way around that they found in this one very not expensive, successful high school outside of Boston, is how do you really hold the student accountable? And some teachers let it slide, and some principals let it slide, and some people will say, well, the kid's got problems at home, this is what, they've spelled this all out to me. And this is long before this meeting, long before this came up. They were warning about the problems they're having. So number one, because you had mentioned one of those pieces of software that you use. Well, that particular software, and I didn't know that you were following that, doesn't have 100% success record. It's about a 64% success record. So if you're using that software alone, which I think the teacher should be able to determine that, a good teacher, not the software. If a teacher asks, especially Ms. Sullivan, I know you've been doing this forever, if you're, not forever, not as long as I've been here. But you were around when a couple of my kids were in school, that was 5 years ago. But
Good backtrack here.
Way to pull yourself out of that.
I mean, you're saying there's no policy, but only the teacher knows.
So we have very firm practices in place at the high school for how you do hold the students accountable. And we don't, at least in the English department, and from speaking to my other department heads, have the type of issue you're talking about. And I'll give you an example from English. We do not only have them submitting work digitally, we do have them writing in class. They do in-class essays, they do other things. So if we really have an issue, and this has come up a couple times this year, where a student's work that they have submitted clearly is not work from their own style, from their own previous work, we have a litany of evidence to uphold, and have done this with the parents to say, not only do these reverse search engines help to suggest that the student has used AI in those types of situations, but in addition, if I compare this writing to what they've done previously, when I sat down and had a conversation, and we do this as well, we'll say to a student, please explain your paper to me. that you just submitted. And I had that conversation, and we used that to then have a conversation with parents who say no, and are able to hold the students responsible. I've not ever had an issue of not holding the student responsible that needed to be.
And I'm sure you wouldn't. But also, how do you push that to the school system to make sure it happens? Because it's just one more thing.
Well, see, that's why we're
Again,
here.
I know, that's why I'm bringing it up.
Again, the academic integrity policies that we adopted from UConn serve those purposes, I think.
Kristen?
So full disclosure, I don't know how to use AI, I've never used it, I just don't know. But I think it's important to recognize, well, first of all, just the 4 committee members here are 3 different generations of education and what we saw and how we were educated. I think it's important, and I'm not against a policy, but I think it's important that we recognize the use and the positive impact it can have.
Yeah, I agree.
But we also want to make sure it's not being misused. And we certainly don't wanna put that burden, at least I'm speaking for myself, I don't wanna put that burden on the teachers to then have to enforce something that's not even a policy, technically. You know, it might be the way it's been done, but if there's no policy, how do you enforce it? So I do agree that there might be some misuse, but it sounds like it's not happening too often and the teachers are managing it pretty well. But I feel like you shouldn't have to manage it, if that makes sense. But I think it's important to recognize that it is the future, not my future, because I don't know how to use it.
We'll get you there.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sure my kids could show me, yes. But I wanna make sure it's not being misused, but I also make sure the kids are learning how to use it properly and will know how to use it should their career path take them that way. That makes sense.
You see, what we've heard is assurance from the high school English department that it's being managed consciously and
Correct.
appropriately.
Right?
And we need to make sure that this happens every place that AI is used, because the potential for misuse is disastrous. It's there and it's really disastrous.
Many of our science courses have whole lessons, whole units based around how to use AI and the appropriate and responsible uses of AI. I was in Norridge's room a little bit earlier this year for one of her lessons on it. And, you know, they really do get in depth into not only teaching the students how to use it, but really getting into the ethics of using it, which I think is key for the students to really learn about why it is unethical to present work, regardless of, I bought it from another kid in my dorm, or ChatGPT wrote it for me, because, I mean, let's face it, this is
Now Brian's dating himself.
yeah, my 32nd year in education. I can tell you in 32 years, cheating has always occurred.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Jeff, you were gonna ask something or
I'm in
something.
technology, most of you know, so just a couple little things, I like what you're doing, talking to the student. I mean, there are a lot of telltales for the teachers. When you have the student who really thinks about it, and they have a much better chance of getting away with it. But you have the average student who finds a quick, easy way out, who writes at a 5th grade level, and then turns in an assignment that is graded, it looks like an 11th grade writing. It's pretty easy, but the proving it part that somebody mentioned is difficult, but you're developing procedures that give you the written evidence. Look, this is what they produced yesterday in handwriting. Do you believe that they really wrote this? But really, another thing that's the enemy we find is search engines summarize with AI at the top. So if you use Google search engine, it throws you the AI summary at the top, and it's not even right most of the time. So, but there are ways, I don't know if we're stopping that here, I mean, there are ways to stop some of those summary type features when you're in the school district. You can add things to the search engines to say, hey, don't do the AI summary. And I'm not saying we shouldn't, but as we develop policies and develop procedures, it's important to educate the students. Look, we know we don't want them to use AI all the time, but they're going to have to use AI moving forward. So we need to make sure we teach them that, look, just because it says it, doesn't mean it's right. And there are so many great ways, especially in literature, literacy and literature arts and history, we know there are some things AI gets wrong. Put them in the assignment. It's just so easy to see them come back with, well, this happened in 1935. Well, no, it really didn't. That came from a Wikipedia entry that Google scraped and grabbed the wrong answer from. So just teaching kids how to in English, you guys do a lot about sources, right? Where did you get your information? Where do you, what are you saying was the source for this and what's the backup to it? They need to be taught how to do that with AI just to protect themselves as they get older, right? I mean, this isn't just about education, it's about these people growing up as adults and how they're going to conduct themselves outside of our K through 12. What are they going to do in the workforce? What are they going to do with their families? Somebody searches, what do I do when this medical thing happens? Don't trust the first thing it says. You know, how do you verify that and research it? No, clicking the little link next to it is not the answer. You know, so it's good to hear that we're going down that road, but I do feel strongly that it has an effect and it has a use, but teaching the kids how to vet it properly is probably one of the best things we can do, because it's not going away.
So writing the proper prompt becomes very important. But Aaron is talking about one of the real joys of teaching. Adds time to the evaluation part of it, but sitting down with a student and saying, let's talk about your paper.
That's great, I love it.
And it's very easy to tell just how much has been really done by the kid and how much has been from someone else. Okay, first Bill.
I didn't see Bill.
Like Kristen, in the spirit of full disclosure, I know nothing about AI. I'm still working on figuring out all the ins and outs of the JAWS program on my computer that allows it to talk to me. But I know that it's the future, and I'm glad. Hopefully I'll use the right term. Aaron, you were talking earlier about academic integrity.
Yeah.
And I think that that's important, but I think eventually we're probably going to need some kind of, if not a policy, some kind of agreed parameters of the use of it.
Which is why we're here. For the last year, I've been collecting articles and other information about AI, just to keep track of it, because we need to do something to, for one thing, to extend what the English department is doing to other groups maybe which haven't done that yet. But the file is just so thick, people are waiting for the state to come up with some kind of policy to regulate this. I don't want to wait, I don't want the state anyway, before us. I'd rather have something local, and the question is just, do we do it with an ad hoc committee? Do we do it with giving that responsibility to an existing committee? A policy committee, I think, would be a great place to discuss all this. But it's huge, it's too much, I think it's too much for one, it would consume. I'm almost done. But that's why we're here, and I do appreciate what everyone has said. Go ahead.
It's not even for teachers. You know, I've read this for 2 years now, and I've talked to people, and I've pulled the data. You know, and maybe it won't be a policy, I don't know how we can incorporate a policy, but at what point is the teacher no longer needed? And that's the fear most people should have, is when do you teachers, I agree with you. But Peter Thiel and all these guys are saying, you bring AI into the school system, that's where the conflicts begin between, you know, the unions and the technology and everything else that goes along with it. I would personally, I don't use it, I've tried to use it, and a lot of the data is wrong, especially for finance and economics, but that's something you have to really look. I mean, Ed Week talks about it, journals talked about it, Financial Times has talked about it, all the tech guys are saying, probably shouldn't be in the schools, it should be used for research. I have no clue. But it will become something that puts pressure on the teachers themselves if you're not careful, I guess is the best way I'm gonna say it. I don't know the answer, but I would never trust a machine versus a teacher. I just wouldn't do it as a student. And I don't know where you cut it off.
Oh, Kim wants to add something.
I just want to say, because I think that, Gary's bringing up a very valid point that I think a lot of people have concern in being an HR person. I think, many people in the workforce are constantly talking about, is the workforce going to be replaced by AI? And I think there has been a constant kind of feeling around HR professionals that says AI is never going to replace the workforce, but people in the workforce will be replaced by people in the workforce who know how to effectively use AI appropriately.
Yeah.
So if we're not finding the right balance to teach our students how to use AI appropriately, other schools are going to be doing that and teaching their students how to do it, and then our students will be at a disadvantage when they get into the future. So I think that's kind of the feeling amongst the HR professionals right now, is that AI is not at a point where it's going to replace people in the workforce, but people in the workforce will be replaced by people who know how to effectively and appropriately and with skill use AI effectively in the workforce.
And that has been the history of economic displacement since technology reared its ugly or beautiful head,
Right, yeah.
depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, technology, replaced things, but then you had to hire people to fix the technology. So yes, technology will replace certain things, but there will be needs for other things, so yes.
I tried to have AI replace me in writing letters to my granddaughter at camp a few years ago. And it was fun. I did it for fun, obviously, but I said, tell AI, go write this letter, to so-and-so kid, talk about warning about bears and staying dry, whatever. Sure, AI wrote this beautiful, didn't sound like me at all. It would have amused my granddaughter if I had actually sent it. But it's fun. So if you haven't tried it, that's the sort of thing that you could feed in and just see what it means. It's actually easy to use, which is what makes it so dangerous.
M dashes, right? That's how you tell, right?
That's a
Yes,
big,
that's
that's
one
a
of the big
big
ones.
tell, right?
M dashes.
Andrew Marchand and I
Yeah,
attempted to
and
replace ourselves with AI by having it build a schedule. Yeah, that was a
That's a-
complete
that's a-
disaster.
yeah, yeah.
So,
I shouldn't even know again.
It's impossible for people to make it alone.
so unfortunately, we can't get fired.
Job security, right? Okay, I'm ready to end this discussion, but if anyone hasn't said it out, okay.
So, you made one very much in AI, I love using AI appropriately. I think, an important thing to know, there are ways for us to know and to guide students so we can know if they're using AI or not. I like your idea of yellow line paper and pens, and I'm not kidding. I think sometimes just having students write papers, but using things like Google Docs as well. When you go back, you can, if you have a student share an assignment, you can look at their history and you can see where they wrote it and they edited it and how they did it, and you can see if they cut and pasted it from ChatGPT right in all at once. And if we set these parameters, which tomorrow they're gonna be different, which makes a policy difficult, but if teachers know this and we keep them educated on AI and what's changing and how to know what students are doing, they can do it. So it's there.
Defend your turf, teachers.
Well, it's,
Over
I
time.
hope we
Doing it for
never
50
get rid
years
of
now.
teachers, like it's mission.
No, we shouldn't. We should never be without teachers.
Anyone else?
It's my fear.
Okay, then we are ready to, now it's the board's problem. How do we deal with this, right?
I know, yeah.
Do we form an ad hoc committee? Not one of these dog and pony show committees, that's not what I'm thinking. I'm thinking of a smaller, more concentrated committee, if we decide to do that, or whatever, but it's here, it's not the next big thing, it's here, this one's real, and
And it's not going away.
it shouldn't go away. It's incredibly powerful and useful, but we need to get ahead of it. We need to be in control, because if we don't get in control, it will be in control. We don't want that. I don't want that anyway. Topics for future meetings. AI concerns is the first thing. The new math program, eventually we're gonna wanna hear how the new math program is going. It doesn't even have to be next month, but it's at some point. Ability grouping, that's something we can keep in mind for a while. Enhanced history offering, we just did that. Device concerns, that's gonna be you eventually, Mr. Ukulele, device concerns. Comments for the good of the order? Jeff?
Oh, great meeting, a lot of good content, and good to hear how everybody's handling the things. I think even just hearing it helps other people come up with ideas too. Everybody has their own take on things, so thank you.
Kristen?
Great meeting, thank you to all the teachers who came tonight, very much appreciate your time, I know you're doing it, off pay, so thank you, appreciate that. But going back to the AI just for 1 second.
Sure.
If we do have some sort of ad hoc, committee, we really do need to include teachers in that.
Oh, yeah, no,
because they know what's
What I didn't want
happening.
was the 40-member committees that we've had before. Certain teachers would be probably the most important.
Absolutely.
Sullivan might want.
I was just, I mean, I hate to put it on you because you have so much, but I really think you probably the one to do
Oh,
this.
she's done half the work already, the department is already doing it.
You know, like, in the back over there.
there.
I don't know your name, I'm sorry. Ashley. Another one? Bill?
Great meeting, the discussions that took place were thought-provoking, and had a lot of ideas out on the table. I'm excited about the proposal for more history in the elementary school, and that I know how much, having been the son of a teacher, I know how much time teachers put in, so I appreciate it, thank you.
Sure.
I'm sorry I was late and, good start, I guess. That's it, yeah, I missed most of it.
Just thank you to everybody who came out, thank you for your presentations, thank you to the teachers who took the time to come out, and John, I just have to tell you, I don't know, I kind of love the way SIC meetings are going lately. They've
John,
taken a whole different kind of a, I don't know, we're going down some rabbit holes, John.
Well, this is the only committee that actually talks about education.
I know, but I
Why we're all
feel like I just,
Set him up for that one.
I like it.
Yes, you did.
Happy New Year, great meeting, great presentations and course proposals from the teachers. Please let me get when I heard that, so from all of you, thank you, and that's it.
Marissa?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Josh?
Thank you, thanks for
Karen?
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, I think it was a good meeting too, and I do appreciate everybody who presented with course proposals and information about how we're teaching history and where we're going with that, and AI and all the business of distinguished alumnus and everything else. And now, History Day. Speaking of history, in this building, the district, the regional History Day, on the 14th of March. I know the math people think Pi Day is theirs, but not this year. It's Connecticut History Day. And that'll be Saturday. You'll hear more about that later. And I am looking on future meetings, middle school next month. After that, Fast Academy, the high school, and then sadly, the end of the school year. But anyway, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Policy committee, order. Everybody's here. Approval of the agenda, can we get a motion for the approval of the agenda?
Second.
All in favor? Approval of the minutes, can we get a motion to approve the minutes?
I will make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
The only thing on the agenda today is the usage of computers. And there is a policy that doesn't cover the actual usage of computers in the school, but rather, I guess, how we safeguard them and what the students commit to doing, safeguarding the computers, how they use them, maybe outside the classroom. But there's really no policy.
It covers both,
It covers both.
because it says that access to district computer systems when students are physically present on school property, and then access when they are engaged in digital remote, so it does cover.
Okay, go ahead.
What it doesn't cover, Gary and I have been talking about this a little bit and how to frame this, is if those of you who have been here for a few years will recall a time not all that long ago when we were not a one-to-one district. And we didn't have computers in all of our classrooms. Our kids had very limited access to computers, and that was only a blink ago, right? 5-6 years ago. And we kind of transformed ourselves into a one-to-one district literally overnight, as did many other districts across the nation. There is, I'll call it a problem of practice, just for the sake of this conversation. When students returned to in-person learning after the pandemic, the computers came with them into the classrooms. And at the elementary level, there is not rampant use of computers all day long in school. Kids are using paper pencil, they are engaging in face-to-face learning with their teachers. There is a concern among, I think, some administrators, some board members, some teachers, that there may be some overuse or over-reliance on the computers, and I think this is a continuation of the conversation that we just started during school improvement, really, about, is that a slippery slope? Am I speaking the next person? I mean,
And more, I'll continue after you're done, yes.
okay, is there a way to effectively monitor how and how often kids are using computers during the school day, period. So I think that was the request to bring forward, because these policies do not address that type of use of computers. It's more about student safety and not so much philosophical about, we're in a digital age, but at what expense to be spending the majority of the school day in front of the screen.
And to add to that, and again, this is just a time for a quick, not even a discussion, this is, where we stand. But the most recent studies that have come out, actually even Ed Week, and some of the union nationals, are recognizing that, and I've talked to Jeff about this. Jeff said they don't teach, they just give you answers. But to lower grades, lower learning. Again, they don't teach, and they give answers. And should they be in the school system? Some school systems are getting rid of them. Some aren't. It's a lot of money that we're spending, and an awful lot of money. And if they're not intended for a one-to-one and to be used in the classroom, for that entire day, then do we evaluate what the use of the computer will be in the classroom or at all? I'm not an educator, but I would tell you, when Ed Week comes out with a huge article about how they're noticing that kids don't learn on computers. They're not learning how to write, they're not learning how to read. you type instead of writing, what you're reading doesn't sink in the same way. You don't digest the information. Is it true? It might be true, it might not be true. But the studies that are out there right now indicate it's part of the problem we're having with kids. Again, the good teachers, whoever they may be, probably don't use them. I know Mr. Richardson doesn't use them in his classroom, he refuses to use them. Under certain occasions he might, and other teachers, Ms. Sullivan, I don't think uses them in the classroom either. But what purpose do they serve in the classroom? And I don't know the answer to that. So, I brought it up before, and I just brought it up again tonight as something we should talk about AI. Kind of ties into it, but a couple educators in the room, do we know what they're good for in the classroom? I mean, in terms of increasing the education and the outcome for our students. I mean, we used to have computer labs, and we can have computer labs throughout the school, which if you want kids to learn about computers, they go to the computer lab. And that's where the teachers, Mr. Martian used to do it, I think, would teach them how to use computers and probably teach them how to use AI. But in the classroom, is it something, can we use a book and have that more effective and more efficient and have kids learn better with the book? And have a yellow pad, and this particular teacher, a friend of mine up in Boston, they don't do anything on computers anymore. They have pads and pens and pencils in the classroom. It's for research at home. They take them home, or they keep them at home. The school actually buys them for them. But they keep them at home, or if there's something special going on during the school day, but they're used for research and research only. Don't know if that's a good idea or not, but I always want to get ahead instead of catch up. So, I know Jeff probably has the most to say about this.
I was just gonna add that, but we have, staring at technology all day is, 7 hours a day. We know what kids do when they go home, right? So you take screens, we've gone to great length to take screens out of their hands during the day, the phones, the tablets, the watches. But if you sit them in front of a screen for 7 hours all day, and then you know what they're going to do when they go home, do we have a responsibility to take part in, we'll say, regulating or trying to minimize that screen time during the day? But you have to know how much screen time they're using, right? We actually have that data. We can get it. We're on all Google devices now. That information, Josh and Rachel and whatnot, they can pull, hey, how long is the computer on? Maybe with the licensing we have, we probably exactly what they're doing all day, but if you know where the cohorts are going, you could figure out, okay, well, this laptop's been on for 5 hours today, and all of their peers were too that travel with them. Okay, there's a lot of screen time. An analysis would be required, but what is the right answer? What classes are more appropriate for it than others? Technology can help do things faster, right? So you can have a child who can type and certainly get more ideas out. So when you're trying to learn how to read and write, when you're writing, you can write. Some kids can write on a computer way faster than they can by handwriting. It helps a teacher because a teacher can read it better than, try and read my handwriting. My kids aren't any better at it, but my handwriting is horrible. So where does that balance play, right? Does it happen that you need it for everything? Are there certain uses, to Gary and I'm sure John's point? Where is that happy balance? And the teachers in the classrooms and the administrators, this whole group of people will have a lot of input to it. I'm not on this committee, but hearing all that input and having this committee just come to some of the consensus, what do we think is best? And then pass it around. What does everybody think? This is not an overnight decision, but people on screens for 8 hours during the day at school, knowing they're going to spend another 8 when they get home, we're probably not helping matters.
We're hurting our kids. Some people, some sort of, like with Jason in particular, your students in particular, there might be a greater need for some of those things, given, and I don't know how the most effective way to teach some of your kids is, but for the other children who, Norway, I think it was Norway and Sweden, they just decided to outlaw them throughout the school systems. No more computers during school. Because the studies that they have used and that they've taken up into consideration are the same problems we have in this country. Kids are on screens all day, and they're plopped in front of a chair in school, but I don't know what grades they were in over there, but and in Great Britain the same thing, and plopped in front of a computer all day. Some teachers don't allow them at all, and other teachers, I do know that some teachers, have them on during the school, well, more than they probably should, but lights off and the computer's on for students, and it shouldn't be the first thing students are introduced to, nor should it, in my opinion, be, the greater part of learning, because it's the teacher that teaches. children. Anyway, Kristen.
So I guess I kind of feel the same way about computers that I do about AI, but I do know how to use a computer as opposed to, maybe not as good as Jeff, but I do understand how to use it. I also have an 8th grader whose handwriting is atrocious. You know, so I think it's a fine line, and I do think there's a generational gap where we have to recognize that computers are not only our present but our future, but also I don't want the students in the system to not be able to write an essay in their own handwriting or have handwriting that can be read legibly. You know, it's a fine line. While I do see your point, I do think there is a drastic overuse of computers. I don't know how we continue to use them while, to Jeff's point, limiting screen time. I mean, definitely this is something that we definitely need to look at. I do agree to an extent.
Moderations.
Yeah, it's all about moderation.
This is gonna be more of a stream of consciousness, and I know that Mrs. Ferguson and I was
We
doing
talked
call
about it.
duty, and we
Yep.
had a conversation. She was helping out with our time of one administrator, and she happened to get into some classrooms and was flabbergasted by the amount of time she saw kids on computers, and I'm sure that wasn't in every classroom. I have to say that.
Not every,
Right,
but
many. We are trying to teach students to be 21st century learners. Computers are not going away, it's part of the workforce. So just as AI, it's something that we're going to have to learn how to teach with. And yes, computers have been around for a long time, and we need to know how to use them and use them effectively and when they're going to be appropriate. Looking at getting rid of computers or limiting the amount of computers, you start to think about book adoption. You think about bringing in curriculum. What materials are you bringing in that we don't now have? And I understand that, you know, there's still going to be computers in a building, but that money now shifts to another place, and that's not going to happen overnight. You have to think about trickle up skills. You can't just take it away from everybody because those in middle school and high school don't have the skills that could potentially be taught in an elementary school on how to have better penmanship and write. So, you know, you need to think about that. It's not a one stop, everybody stops.
Right.
You have to teach and have that build up. You know, just like we're going through the social emotional piece of COVID children. We're still seeing those effects trickle through our system, and we still have at least 5 to 6 more years before we have a student that wasn't affected by the pandemic. You know, you talk about special ed, assistive technology, that is definitely something that needs to be there, and there's always those exceptions. And, you know, I think that you said, what are the obstacles to teachers teaching? And right now, we don't have the things that we need, and we are pulling a lot of stuff. It reduces the amount of time that we are required to, like, having an essay on a computer is much easier to correct than, so it's a time thing also for teachers. And again, stream of consciousness, not everything is very well thought out as I'm going through this, but just thinking about that, the amount of time that we have in taking home a stack of, you know, 125 papers or whatever it is, to go through that as opposed to, you know, 125 essays on Google Classroom. So Google Classroom has definitely been a positive for students who are out for whatever reason for long periods of time. They have access to the curriculum, even when they're absent, when they're suspended, when they're sick. You know, we're putting the syllabuses or our daily agendas and what we're doing. A lot of time is time saving for us because we go back from each year and see what our pacing was. So I do agree that I even walk the hallways and I just see teachers behind their desk and students with their computers up, and it is disturbing knowing what myself and other teachers that I work with are doing in the classroom to engage students. And help them to manage their computer time appropriately. And, you know, I know in the middle school, they talked about the high school with, we in the ELA department for 8th grade, they have to write a rough draft before they can even type. So that is something that I know even in the middle school, that they're having to show us a written version of what they want to say before they put it on the computer, so.
I think you started there, but I think you just nailed it, Jason, when you said to engage students. I think that's the biggest concern here, is that there's that lack of engagement, right, between teacher and student. When kid walks in, class sits down, and immediately they're directed to open their devices. And, right, and that even impacts behaviors. And you and I talked about that too, right?
So you don't have rapport.
You don't have that relationship with your teacher because you're relating to the screen, right, instead.
I don't think it can be an all or nothing situation, and I think that's, and I hope that that's the board's kind of initial thinking, is it can't be an all or nothing.
I don't think there's any thinking in it, to be honest, other than what we're seeing. And yeah, my purpose is to just stream of thought. Yours is better than mine now. But, you know, and you brought up having to read the essays. Teachers have always had to do that. What is it that we deny the kids today that causes, and again, not necessarily our students, but the output you get today versus 2012 and earlier? What is it that brought us here? And it's a lot of things. And if the most recent, very liberal education studies are telling us the number one thing right now is, you know, everybody says, well, when computers came out, this is going to solve all the problems. Well, test scores were up at 74s, and now we got computers in every classroom, and they're in the 20s. I'm not blaming teachers, it's just where we stand. So what is that? And some other countries are saying we've figured it out. I don't know if they're right or wrong, it isn't all or nothing. There's got to be computers, but just we have to figure out how they're used in such a way where the students have the most teacher time they can possibly have, and sit down with them. And actually, you know, handwriting is handwriting. My son Christian works for me, and I'm not joking. His handwriting is such that you would think he was 3 years old. I'm not kidding. That's how bad it is. Now my daughter is great, and she is 2 years old. So it's not the teacher. They have the same teachers, but he doesn't do any handwriting. And for his job with us, he's got to write. So I don't know the answer, but it's something that we should talk about.
The longer you're a teacher, the better you are at reading different forms of penmanship.
You're right.
I can just imagine.
So, again, I'd rather your daughter learn the right way, not necessarily read the handwriting, but learning, not learning on a computer, but learning in a way we can figure out what the kids learn.
Am I wrong in saying, and I think I hear that, is that they are teaching penmanship and cursive back in the elementary schools again, aren't they?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes, we
which-
are.
Thank
Everything's
you.
coming back.
We say that.
Which is
thank you.
great, but it missed my kids, so now I
Yeah.
can't read it.
Oh, and I know that they're lucky enough to have Mr. Calabrese, he does cursive writing competitions.
Mhm.
Oh, nice.
So,
That's great, I mean, that's good to hear.
So just a few things to think about if this goes forward towards policy that I would hope would be there. First, finding a balance, I think, is key.
This is the first even bringing it up. This is not working.
Yeah, no, I'm just, I just, my stream of consciousness type. I think a really important place in K3 where I am, kids don't spend nearly as much time on computers. We don't hand in assignments on computers. And in fact, in some ways, we have the opposite problem because 3rd grade, we're taking our starter ballot assessments on a computer, and the kids' typing skills and, you know, just working on a computer in that way are not always solid. I think curriculum writing is the place where these decisions can be made. If you're teaching a computer science class, you're probably gonna have a computer in front of you the whole time. If you're teaching, you know, an art class, maybe there's a unit with some computers in it, but, you know, mostly you should be painting and drawing and using clay or whatever that is. So I think that's the place where those decisions should be made.
Yeah.
But test taking, we have to make sure that we're really ready for these kids. Are SATs on computer now too?
Yes.
And as a continuation of my stream of consciousness, about 20 years ago, I was a poor teacher making some extra money in proctoring SATs. and kids would come up to me, and this was close to 20 years ago, they didn't know how to make, they had to write out this little statement that they weren't cheating in cursive. Now, how do you make an S again? How do you make a, they didn't know how to write cursive. So I was teaching high schoolers how to write cursive then. And then the future skills. I think it's really important that we, they're going to use computers. And frankly, you're probably right, they're probably gonna figure it out in the 8 hours out there, most of the things they need. But we have to make sure that they're learning it the right way. And I think that's an important piece too. But all day with computers, I'm right there with you. I think that is not good for anybody, including administrators.
It's more of a 7 through 12 problem.
I'm sure, but I think that test taking piece is, until that changes, we have to make sure our kids are prepared for that.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, and this, I mean, I'm not advocating one way or the other, although I have my opinion, and I
Yeah.
just happen to agree with Gary, but like,
I would love computers to be gone in a whole lot of ways, and I love them. It's just, you think about how we are attached. So, I mean, you used to go home from work, and you go home from work, and
Except for
now,
yeah,
you know,
now
it's
you never go
always
home
there,
from
you're
work.
never home from work.
right, you're always attached.
Always
Mr.
attached.
French, I guess.
So, and please understand, this is not me throwing anybody under the bus, but my daughter is in an Italian class. And every single assignment is on the computer. There is no actual lesson. She's not learning to speak Italian, she's just doing assignments on her Chromebook. So she's not, there's nothing to learn. She's not learning how to converse, she's not learning how to say a sentence. She's just learning verbs and adjectives, and I've watched the assignments, they're like a fill in the blank type of thing. You know, I just don't think that's teaching them anything, especially with a language like that, you need to be able to converse.
Can I just, is that what you're seeing at home, and is that what you're,
No,
or is that what
those are
you're
the
being?
only assignments
But
ever.
is that what's happening in the classroom?
Yes.
And you have that, I just wanna have that
Yeah,
clarification.
that's
is
how I understood that conferences, is every assignment that's given is on the computer, and that's how they're rated.
Jeff, did you have a question?
Just a quick comment to everybody's statements. I think, and Kristen may have just alluded to it a little bit, is computers, you watch the generations, and a lot of this is generational gap, but what percentage of our youth know to look somebody in the eye? What percentage of our youth know, you know, watch, I'm gonna pick you, I'm not picking on you, but you have your notepad, probably with shorthanded, quick little instructions. You talk the entire time, you look to the chair, and you're down, you look quick for your next idea, and you're talking, you're looking at people. Watch our youth, they can't do it.
No, they don't.
Because, and even when they raise their hand in a classroom when I've walked through, you know, they're behind a computer screen, and now a bigger computer screen, I might add. They're a little bit slouched down in their chair, they're hidden, they raise their hand. You know, look, people learn from, yes, the computers, and I'm a computer person, but there's topics that maybe a student doesn't like, or they're not the best at. The computer screen doesn't cause them to be engaged. So you could love Italian, you could love history, you could hate history. I had a history class in college. I'm not a history person, I live on memorization for history. But I had a teacher who dragged us into the conversation and made it one of my favorite classes ever. The screen doesn't do that for you, the teacher does. So there's a balance to it. There are a lot of educational pluses to screens. There are a lot of educational minuses. Maybe they don't show up on the grade, but they may show up on the student and that adult that we're generating. It's always, you know, making today's youth the adults and professionals of tomorrow. What are we doing in that process that shapes the future? If they can't talk to people, you know, think about when you were younger and you went to do classwork, or you worked with people on homework outside of class. Maybe you wrote a paper or did a research thing, you had a midterm to study for. Now, all these study guides are on computer screens. So Chris and I are sitting next to each other, we're working on our screens, we're not talking to each other, we're not interacting. You're in a classroom, you're not really interacting. Look at what we just did with a brand new math program that encourages kids to get stand, and it's about problem solving together. The screen makes you problem solve separately. I'm not saying I'm against computers, obviously, but that moderation probably has a different level of respect and purpose in different categories of education.
And Josh had a question.
Before I say anything, I just want to say I don't want to point out anyone specific. This is a thing with multiple administrators across multiple buildings. But we've had incidents where, because we have our policy says, hey, we can take away the computer if a student is abusing it. So we have students abuse their computers they get taken away, and then we get reports from teachers going, hey, they can't participate in this lesson plan because it's on a computer, they need a computer. Parents call and complain they're falling behind on their homework, they need a computer to do that. And then the, admins will go, all right, fine, whatever, they can have their computer back, and they go right back to abusing the computer. So we need, as I'm gonna be one of probably the most pro-computer people here, being my job depends on it. But bare minimum, we need alternative lesson plans that where we don't rely on the computer, it has to be there.
I never knew we were relying.
As a special ed teacher,
And it's not every teacher, and it's, but there are problems.
the curriculum writing needs to always ensure that there's that alternative piece, and I'm always saying that to the teachers advocating for my kids and all kids is that, okay, well, they don't have the computer, so where's the material for them if they don't have that access? Because we have parents that refuse to sign agreements, which ultimately means that they can't have a computer. And so then the teacher needs to be able to adapt, and unfortunately, and I am the rep for the teachers union, there needs to be that flexibility amongst all of us to be able to give that child the access that they need. It's very different with a special ed student, but for the general ed students, there are those situations where a student shouldn't have a computer for many different reasons, and the teacher needs to be able to provide that lesson that everyone else is getting, those shared experiences. We talk about that, the math curriculum. We want shared experiences across the board. The ELA curriculum, we want shared experiences across the board. Everyone, whichever teacher you have, you're getting a similar situation, a similar experience, and they should be able to do that whether it's on a computer or the student next to them that doesn't have a computer. And I think that that's where we need the time and the focus with curriculum writing to ensure that we are able to provide it both digitally and not digitally, the same experience.
Gary, for half a second, Jason, just one sentence on this. You know you have too much, I've read many articles about this, you know you have too much technology in your school when the internet disconnects and the world comes to an end. And that's really, I had to say it because it plays into what you're saying. When you comes to an end, you've got too much technology.
I've heard it.
I'm sorry.
Did you want to go?
I just wanted to say that I think the best part of the conversation thus far has been not just the idea of how to moderate the use of it. I think we can all agree somewhere in the middle lies the most appropriate component, but the neurological soft signs that you two both so eloquently spoke about is what I think we continue to see what cripples our kids, whether or not they can turn in a gleaming assignment or not, but their inability to have executive functioning because of the missing orthography of literally writing on a piece of paper so you can't organize your thoughts, the inability to look a person in the eye and have an articulate conversation. I just love the fact that the conversation is not gonna just center on, okay, well, how do you write the lesson? How do you make sure the standard is still dealt? It's the relational component between the adult and the child that motivates kids, and then most importantly, the neurological soft signs of whether or not kids are gonna leave 12th grade and actually command their presence in the world. And I was so happy that you said that, and I just wanna make sure that when we do continue the conversation, we still nail in on the neurological soft signs of the weaknesses we're creating, and how do we make sure that we move away from that part of it?
It is the weaknesses that are destroying our kids, and they're not learning.
100%.
I had a conversation today with somebody who runs one of the largest retailers in the world, and he was the head of the real estate group, and he's about 10 years younger than me. He says to me, I don't hire kids younger than 40 years old. So what do you mean, big kids? He goes, how'd you know? He goes, the 25-year-olds out of college, they sit there in their office in front of their computer, and they don't do anything. He said, they don't know how to do anything. He said, so I just don't hire them. I move up the ladder and I'll pay more money to get more productivity. He said, I will not bring those kids into my program. And it's not just him. It's what I see, it's what a lot of people say. I'm not, again, it's where we are. And now we have to get away from it, get back to it. Yeah, go.
I know that the agenda item is about the policy, and I know we.
It was a late agenda.
No, and I get that, and I guess the student use, right, so and I heard you prior to the meetings asking Kim this, what is the purpose of the policy that we're looking at compared to the policy that we have? And how does this go into the conversation that we
They're kind of
started?
two different conversations.
Well, they're really
Yeah, I
not, that's
just-
what I was gonna say,
Yeah.
is this is what I was trying to say at the beginning, just to clarify. This policy talks about the use of computers when students are physically present and the access to them. So if the board in this conversation wants to include the components about how to balance or moderate, I feel like in that section of this policy is where we put that, is what I was trying to say at the beginning, is that this policy does talk about access to district computer systems when students are physically present on school property. And that's really what you're talking about. So I feel like we can take this Shipman policy and make suggestions and modifications based on what the board's interest is in this topic, wherever you land, like we can, as we always have the ability to add or remove or edit language that Shipman gives us as a model policy, and then we present it to our attorneys to see that it, passes muster. But I think you have the right to add into this policy to
We
be
weren't
able
sure
to
if
talk
we were
about
gonna do that.
what you're looking for. So
I don't know
just so
where-
you know, I was trying to,
Correct.
give you the opportunity that this is a place where you can put that in. Whether you want it in administrative regulations or in policy, that's up to the board.
I just want to go on record saying that I have seen countless teachers engaging in the classroom. I have. I mean, as part of school improvement, John and I, sometimes Bill, will go on school tours, and I've been doing them with John now for 2 years. I've seen every school, I've seen dozens of classrooms, and I do see the teachers engaging.
Correct.
And I don't always see the computers in front of the students. And just a quick example, in this school, our last visit, Mr. Bader was doing a really amazing lesson. The kids were all into it, they were excited, it was hands-on, it was interactive. That's just one example, and I don't want what I said prior, that's just one example to deviate from the amazing, engagement our teachers really do with our students, just for the record. Okay.
Well, it's not the teachers that created this problem.
No.
I'll say just like the AI is the future, they say. I don't believe it will be. It will be for some people. Computers were supposed to be solving the problems in education 20 years ago. It comes down to teachers. But the more we introduce as ways to not have to teach as much, or again, it depends on the course and it depends on what the curriculum is. The user is just to move away a little more. It's not all the teachers. Who knows how many it is. But just like the phones, not every kid has their phone out, but when it starts in the classroom, but when one starts, the other starts, and honestly, the kids need to learn. We need to give them the best education possible, whatever that means. And if it's technology that is creating some of their, giving them deficiencies, you use bigger words than I do. But that's well known throughout the world now. So how can we fix it? As best we can. That's all. Anything else, gentlemen?
Just one other, and I think I already know the answer to this, but I'm put out there. In changing, nope, I'll leave it for another time.
I don't think we've thought about it yet.
No,
We could be in the.
I'm gonna leave it for when we get to a further point
Yeah, okay.
and do my own research before I ask the question.
Just not ChatGPT.
Nope.
Which I can't help you because I don't know how to use it anyway.
You use it, you don't even realize it.
Probably, yeah.
All right, I think we're done.
Well, onto the policy.
Is it,
Yeah, the policy.
I think we're going to, we're not gonna change anything right now.
Well, but
We're gonna
there
table
was a
that.
discussion on
Do
what
you
the,
wanna see what Kim can put together for some language, or no?
Oh, I don't
That's up to you guys.
I don't think we're ready for
well,
that.
what's the difference between the Shipman policy and our policy?
There are some, so our policy was last updated, I think it was 2017. So there are definitely some, 2020,
You
name
know
changes,
that,
2020,
you know that,
2017.
why don't you read it, you outlined them, so we wanna go.
Yeah, so the policies are very similar. The main difference is that, the Shipman model policy is really only the first section before where it says kind of information, information systems, like the shipment model policy is really only those 2 paragraphs of our first policy, with some expanded language that kind of talks about, increasing some of the types of devices. There's more detail in those 2 paragraphs, but those 2 paragraphs, the first 2 paragraphs of our policy are the entirety of the shipment model policy.
Right.
What's in information systems and beyond in our policy is what Shipman has in their administrative regulations. But they are almost identical with a few minor things. There is some minor changes to the definitions about obscene language and prohibited, obscene things.
And
So
harmful.
there's a few changes to the definitions there, I think that are updated based on the times that we're living in. Under student conduct, so on page 14 of the shipment model policy, there was a minor change where the shipment model policy, our policy says personal use of district information systems is expressly prohibited. In the shipment model policy, it says authorized. I think we can leave ours the way it is because it is prohibited based on our cell phone policy, but that's just a change, just in shipment's policies was the point. And then there was something about accessing social media on page 15 of the shipment model policy, which also says it must be authorized. So that was another change that in our policy, it says use of social media is strictly prohibited, but in shipment's policy, it says it has to be authorized. Again, we could leave it the way ours is, but those are just some of the changes. And then on page 16, it's specifically around AI, and to me, I think that's the most important thing that we may want to incorporate into our policy, because we don't have it right now, and since we're having that conversation, at least having something in the policy that references unauthorized use of generative artificial intelligence as part of our policy, which we don't currently have in this policy, so. I think those are the big things.
But all of that under administrative takes it, like you were saying, I overheard you saying, takes it out of the policy, which allows for
Us
a
to
much
tweak it.
easier change without going through.
Without having to make a policy adjustment each time, right? So if we split it in alignment with Shipman's model policy right now, and then make the second part administrative regulations, then as we continue this conversation, whether it's through an ad hoc committee or through whatever method the board so chooses, as we want to make tweaks to the administrative regulations, that won't require an update to policy each time. So that's just something for the board's consideration.
Can I just ask a question? Is there any other policy that we've done that to that has moved parts of the policy out of policy into administrative, and how has that worked?
Most of them have been aligned that way. For some reason, this one wasn't.
Okay.
Most of the ones that we have followed Shipman's model policy, where they've got a policy and then the administrative regulations. For some reason, this one just didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, we do have, I know the student use of district-owned devices, I did think has language about AI. And I think our, some of our other policies that we have does have language about AI, but this one, because of the nature of when it was last updated, doesn't really have the language on AI.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I think the other, to Kim's point, a lot of the model policy and the administrative piece talks about with authorization, because I think it's Hamden's policy, I looked at it, talks about you can use social media for accessing district social media. There are some, we've now pushed so many things to pages and things that I believe it was allowed. I think Hamden said you could, I think it was prohibited unless accessing district-owned or district-presented data and educational use per your whatever you're working. So if you were a marketing student, and I was a marketing class in high school, you probably are gonna be in social media.
Right, that makes sense.
I think that's why a lot of these things were changed, to this group's decision, but I do believe that's why the model policy talks about with authorization rather than ours, where it says strictly prohibited. Shipman's trying to put us in a position where we can defend what we.
If there was a legitimate
Right.
need, yeah, that makes sense.
I always like Shipman. gives us protection, but.
And then I
Anybody
think just the depth of our real conversation is gonna get into the alignment of the amount of usage, the way that we're teaching, like that's a whole different conversation, which is, I think, the heart, the spirit of what we're attempting to get to, which I do appreciate that we're getting
That sounds
to.
like school improvement.
That
part of it.
They're gonna keep kicking it back to each other, going back
I
and
noticed that, it's like,
So, do we have a
That part of
favorite
it
tonight?
sounds
What
like
do we do?
school.
I'm comfortable with you, with your, you're proposing. Anybody else have any issues? Leave as is for now and table it, or buy for?
Or that table, whatever you guys would like to do, I'm happy to do.
Do you have a motion, or?
If you make the amount of computer use part of your policy, you're really restricting yourself, and that's gonna take forever.
Oh,
No, he's talking
no,
about
no, that's.
So I think separating it, it's going to give the district, the administrators, a greater ability to deal with some of the behavioral issues that we're seeing around the computer use, and the ability for the district to make changes to how we implement it if it's administrative rather than policy. I think the first two paragraphs very clearly state the purpose of the computer and what we're doing and providing, and then the administrative is literally that parental piece, which, we're beating.
No, I'm just in disagreement.
So we wanna move with separating them in accordance with Shipman's policy, is that what you're saying? Is that what-
I would move
My
it that way, but.
recommendation as a teacher.
The other thing is your monitoring policy,
Right,
the
so-
monitoring piece of this policy is way better than ours. It talks about our rights as district to
Right, yeah.
reset passwords,
Yeah.
get access to the.
Much more detail,
There's,
yeah.
there's a lot more teeth to it to let you, a parent going, well, it doesn't say you can do that. So I don't think any of this really infringes anybody's, rights of having the device. It's just really giving you a post-COVID one-to-one school district the option to really enforce the rules.
So I have two questions to clarify then. If we're gonna go with the expanded language in Shipman's policy, in the places where it does say personal use must expressly prohibited, do we wanna go with that language in Shipman, or do we wanna
I
not?
think Gary's gonna ask for a motion just to.
Well, I.
Oh, okay,
well,
but I thought you said you wanted to go with the split, okay, I'm
It
sorry.
is the school.
No, the split would go with Shipman's.
Yeah, that's what he wants to do.
Oh, yeah,
So she needs the answer to.
but I need the answer to do that, because that's part of the split. That's what I'm saying.
Repeat that again.
Are we,
Again.
So in the split, in the Shipman split, the language is personal use must be specifically authorized by a district staff member. Unauthorized personal use of district computer systems is expressly prohibited.
Right.
Do you just wanna keep it as unauthorized personal use of district computer systems is expressly prohibited? Go with the new one?
I do, I agree.
Okay.
where is that statement?
It's on the bottom
Page
of
14.
14.
But that's part of the administrative, which is.
Correct,
Okay.
but are we not updating the administrative regulations too, or no?
Well, I don't know, because I don't know,
Or we wanna just take that out?
like, is it too? At first,
Okay.
are we splitting it, and then secondly, do we wanna change those administrative, that's not a board.
So you just wanna do the 2 pages of the policy and that's it?
Well, let's just go with
Okay.
Kristen first.
So I just have a question regarding the personal use. So I wanna make sure that students are able to use it for personal use when needed. Like, for example, if they wanna set up a calendar for their work commitments and their after-school activities and homework, that's personal use. But they're not surfing an unauthorized website. Like, I wanna make sure they're still able to use it, cause some kids, this might be their only device.
I think the difference, Kristen, if you keep reading where it says, I think they're talking about inappropriate personal use.
Right.
Inappropriate, I just wanna make sure, I just wanna make sure that that's very clear, because unauthorized personal use could mean anything. And, like I said, if someone's using it to journal, maybe their feelings from the day, or, like I said, keeping a list of things they need to do for that week so they stay on task. Maybe this is their only way to keep that, do you know what I mean? I don't have an issue with somebody keeping a personal journal, especially if it helps them have an outlet for their feelings.
Yes, and I do think that the examples help with
Okay.
underneath, right?
Yeah.
Because you know, I think your example that you just gave, like, is not listed here.
Sure.
But it talks about, you know, accessing someone else's personal folder.
Of course.
Like, you know, gaining computer system, damaging the computer files, you know, downloading or modifying, like,
Yeah,
so it
that's
gives
valid
you,
use,
it
not
gives you
just-
examples of what would
Yeah.
constitute
Right.
unauthorized use.
Plus it then is teaching them how to use their computer too.
Can I just, so, and I guess this is for my own clarification, is if you move forward to split it, you don't need the board's permission then to change that language. How does where does that administrative procedures get changed then? If they're just voting to split it, that takes that piece of that paragraph out of their hands to the administrative hands, and then it's up to the superintendent to make that decision. Is that, am I thinking that correctly?
Yeah, so historically, on the website, and Marissa, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the administrative regulations are still there on the website, they're just in a separate place.
Okay,
And so if we have to update them based on something new that happens, you know, a new law or whatever, if we have to make an update to them, we've just made updates to them.
And they are susceptible to board override.
Yes,
Right.
exactly.
So that's,
So it's just, we don't have to wait
gotcha.
45 days for a policy meeting and then a full board vote in order to be able to implement it. We can implement it right away. And then we could bring it to the board for informational purposes, but we don't, it doesn't have to go to a board vote.
I'll ask for a motion.
Can I just?
Yeah, okay,
One
I'm sorry,
last-
go ahead, no.
I just wanted to throw out to be careful about the language with the social media, and I think that's where this little conversation. If we ban all social media, our Torrington High School webpage is banned. It's, I mean, there's our Facebook
Well, this
right,
is-
right on there.
But this is student use, right? Like,
Yep,
so,
but
yeah.
if they go to the Torrington High School webpage, there's this Torrington High School Facebook.
So if you click on them, it's blocked.
There's, I would, the way, it depends on your interpretation. So is this social media and are you interacting with it? Like, I just think it's important to be careful with that language that.
But I think to Jason's point, I think the students can't access it on the websites anyway. They shouldn't be able to
They're
on
not
computers
supposed
because
to.
it's blocked.
They can't.
You can't.
Okay, well,
because-
maybe I
yeah,
could, but.
But
right.
students like can't get onto social
So they
media.
click on those, they get a block, I'm assuming, right, Jeff?
So that box doesn't even show up, that box shows up as a box that basically says, no, you can't view this.
This box here?
Yep, the Facebook one, it's blocked, it's Facebook.
as Sue has pointed out, inappropriate is the
Right,
overriding policy.
And if we're putting in our website, then it's us kind of saying it's appropriate for you to view it.
Don't we want them to see that now?
Right.
We want them to, right?
All right, can I have anybody want to make a motion?
It's their Facebook.
Or do we want to make a motion that we accept the shipment policy?
I will make the motion that we accept the shipment policies as presented and explained.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then, nice to have you, Jason.
What's that?
It's nice to have you here. You make these meetings worth the effort, let's put it that way.
I wish more people would do it.
Yes, also, we need a motion to send it to the full board.
So,
Second.
All those in favor?
aye.
Aye. Yeah.
Topics for future meetings?
I try to say Martin's because
Computers. We did have some other things you wanted, actually Kristen brought something up, but we can't do anything with the,
We have a meeting at the end of January regarding the staff dress code, and we really can't do anything until that happens.
It wasn't necessary, I voted no on the staff dress code,
Right.
but I have issues with the student dress code, it's just very ambiguous.
Okay, you want to take a look at that?
I'd like to have a little more clarification on certain things where it just says, for example, it says upper thigh, what does that mean? It's different for everybody. I'm gonna date myself here, but back when I was in school, it was if your fingers went to the bottom of your skirt, then it was okay. If your fingers went past it, it was too short. Cause everybody's different height. But just,
Student dress code.
yeah, I would like to just reevaluate it, but also, I don't wanna meet here again in the winter, I am absolutely freezing.
It is very cold.
It is so cold in here, it is, my feet,
Thank you.
my feet are
It's awful.
Well, our next meetings are at different,
but I won't want to come here again in the winter. It's so cold, and these chairs are killing my back.
you live in this part of the town.
I know!
She doesn't control the heat.
I know!
One more thing, Kristen, that you brought up, which we approved the teachers, the husband and wife bringing their child to school.
Oh, right, yes,
We talked about having to make it a policy,
yes, we do, correct,
so.
yes, that too, yeah.
All right. Anything else?
Just, Gary, I want to
Yeah, go
add
ahead.
to Kristen's question about the student dress code policy. I think it would be useful, the last time we talked about it, we had some admins come and explain how it's been going and some of the data they had collected and how useful it's been, if they're seeing a difference. I think they help to shape those policies, getting some of their input like they did last time. Because we talked about asking them how it went 9 months in or so, maybe Ms. Ferguson may remember that. We talked about seeing, hey, how's it going, it's kind of that time frame anyway.
Was bags and lockers, bags, wasn't that something that was brought up at a previous
We
about?
just talked about, I
It was
had
a
brought
full
that
board
up,
meeting.
about a small bag being allowed into,
But I don't know what the high school we have to talk.
it's just at the middle school.
Bags are getting bigger, the purse sizes are getting bigger.
Well,
They're no longer,
it's 'cause
they're
we
no
don't
longer
have a
backpacks,
policy.
they're now
This is
becoming
why, I think we need
All right,
it.
so
shoulder bags
You
and
want the policy.
I think we need-
purses, and I think it needs to be clarified, the size, yeah, I think it's for a topic. If we're gonna say backpacks go in the locker, what's not a backpack, what's not a bag, what's not a shoulder bag, and as a teacher, it's, yes, keeping, the personal items, but it's more or less a safety issue. It's
I agree.
what is hidden in those things that are being brought into school and being carried around with them. Yes, they're still in that locker, but at least they're not easily accessible if they're coming into the buildings.
Got that, Royce?
Got it.
All right, comments for the good of the order? We'll just stick with the committee tonight, because we want to get out of here. All right, next we'll start with Mr. Lockner and Jeff.
Happy New Year. Thank you for a good conversation.
Great meeting.
Nothing, I'm good, thanks.
Bill?
I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm good. I guess we can just go.
I'm all set, great.
Thank you.
All right.
I move we adjourn.
So moved. All those in favor?